then just to continue, that Avram married Sarah. Sarah was his wife. They had a hard time having children. They finally have children when Sarah was 90. Avram was 99. It was a big miracle. And they had Abraham had other children. Had another child earlier. He had Yishmael earlier, but he had Isaac. He had Yitzchak when he was 99, and Sarah was 90. And then again, Yitzchak was the one that goes for the Akedah, that they did the sacrifice, but he ends up not being sacrificed, quote unquote. But that's God. That's one of the tests that says that there's 10 tests that Hashem gave to Avram, and this is one of the tests, and each test was harder than the other because obviously, if you're testing somebody, you don't give them a test and give them an easier test. So they all say that this is the final test that he had. There's different opinions as far as what the specific 10 tests were. Anyway, so then Yitzchak is his son. Yitzchak ends up marrying Rivka. Yitzchak and Rivka, they both have twins. They have Yaakov and Esav, and then eventually Yaakov has the 12 sons and Dinah. And then the 12 sons end up, there's a famine in the land. They end up, Yosef gets thrown in the pit. Yosef gets sold to Mitzrayim. Yosef is in Mitzrayim. Joseph, he becomes the second in command. And then in Mitzrayim, there's no food in Canaan, so they come down, the brothers come down, and eventually Yaakov comes down to Mitzrayim. And then in Mitzrayim, they work, they prosper there, they do pretty well. But then over time, the king dies, the old pharaoh dies, and they slowly but surely the Egyptians gets worried that the Jewish people, if there's a war, are going to take the other side of the invading country. So they get worried, what are we going to do with the Jews? They view it as a Jewish problem, and eventually they enslave the Jews. They give them hard work. Then, just to make the story short, Moshe comes along. Mo, Moshe comes along, and then eventually God sends the 10 Makos, the 10 plagues. The Jewish people leave Egypt. We cross the Red Sea. We come to Har Sinai. At Har Sinai is where God gives us the Torah. And at Har Sinai, there are 3 million Jewish people that witnessed that God gave us the Torah. It wasn't by an individual one. That wasn't just God just didn't give it to Moshe, he just didn't give it to Aaron. He gave it to all of us, for all the Jewish people that were alive there. We have a tradition going all the way back to then, which is about 3,300 and I believe 35 years ago. That's when we were at Har Sinai and God gave us the Torah. And we continue observing the Torah from then all the way to now. Okay, so now that we did this little brief history, now we're going to discuss as far as what are the different connections. Again, our job is to connect to Hashem. What are some of the connections what if something was discussed with God prior to the giving of the Torah, after the giving of the Torah, with Abraham, with Noah, what the status of it, and what are some of the items involved.